Good morning. Today we're going to talk about some enemies that Solomon had. Your reading is 1 Kings 11:14 through 25. That's 1 Kings 11:14 through 25. So pause me, do your reading, and I'll be here when you get back. Okay, the very first verse here says that the Lord raised up these enemies. So Solomon had disobeyed and he had a bad attitude. So the Lord raised up some enemies, and maybe in our lives that would be seen as trials when we're disobedient and got a little attitude. And the first one mentioned is Hadad, and he is an Edomite. And when he was a boy, Joab, who was David's commander, destroyed all the Edomites. And lots of commentaries say that was just the fighting men. You'll remember back in Joshua, God had told Joshua to eliminate everybody, and the Edomites obviously weren't eliminated. So Hadad was a boy, and he escaped with some officials. And you get a little geography lesson. Edom is southeast of Israel. It's a desert area, and it's also in the area of Midian. So it says they went from Midian to Paran. Now, when you get to the top of the Red Sea, it splits, and one of those, the one on the right is the Gulf of Aqaba, and the one on the left is the Gulf of Suez. So the one on the left is the one that borders Egypt. So they crossed the Gulf of Aqaba from Midian/Edom and went to Paran, which is this peninsula there, kinda, and it's now Jordan and Saudi Arabia. And then they went to Egypt. They crossed the Gulf of Suez to go to Egypt. I'm very curious as to how they crossed, but it doesn't say. So this boy grew up in Egypt, and they told him who he was and could he have refuge there, and the Pharaoh said sure. And Pharaoh liked this guy so much that he gave Hadad his sister-in-law as a wife, and they had a son named Genubath. Don't know why that's important. It's just mentioned in the Bible, and that's all we know about Genubath. And when Hadad found out that David and Joab had died or rested with their fathers, Hadad told Pharaoh, I want to go back. And Pharaoh says, why? What do you need that you don't have here? And Hadad just says, I just want to go. And the story ends. Obviously, he went back because it says that he bothered, he was an adversary of Solomon. And just remember that Hadad was an adversary on the south. And then the second adversary was Rezon. And he came from Zobah, which is the north. It's north of Damascus, kind of northeast. And he fled from his king, who later David destroyed. And he formed his own band of rebels. And he took that Damascus region in an area called Aram. If you're interested, you can look at a map and see all these things. If not, just remember that Hadad came from the south, Rezon came from the north, and God raised them up. This was not their own doing. This was a God thing. And tomorrow we're going to learn about some internal enemies. Just remember that God is in charge.